Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Now, today, of course, is our full moon in Cancer, so I'm going to start the message there. As always, I'm going to timestamp so you can find that below or in the description box. Move around as you feel guided to. Won't be a long one, just to give you the heads up. They haven't been too long lately, I would say, wouldn't you? Yeah. And it's valuable information, and usually it coincides with whatever the reading turns out to be. Usually there's some connection, but certainly definitely relevant to the present moment, given we are in the vibration of this cycle already. So without further ado, this is your full moon in Cancer message. It's the cold moon. Now, what's interesting is that I thought that I called the last new moon, the cold moon. I'm almost positive I did, but I hope that I wasn't wrong. I didn't misspeak on that. And that this is just maybe the cold full moon, whatever that means. But anyway, today, December 26, 2023, happening at about 7:33 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the first full moon since winter solstice, first off, but it's also the longest and the last moon of 2023. Now, Cancer rules the root system and mother's milk, the houses we are born into and the houses we build of our bodies and for ourselves. Consider that Cancer reflects our direct link to the past by way of our mother, and Capricorn, which is the current season, represents our celestial father. This cycle may command our attention to who we actually are based on the unadulterated truth of who or what we come from. What is revealed may be shocking to the psyche and to the senses. Consider the revelation that you were adopted or switched at birth, or that who you thought your folks were was a lie or an illusion. It may or may not be so dramatic in a practical or actual sense, but whatever it may be is bound to reset yourself and surrounding awareness in order to reroute your personal ambitions onto the most purposeful, productive, and even prosperous path forward. As the saying goes, if you don't know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going. Well, it's time to know without a shadow of a doubt, and the truth shall make you free to be. As I stated, the big reveal could have a personal dramatic effect, one that may or may not incite a pause for the cause. Given the highly emotional aspect of Cancer and the stern structural nature of Capricorn, allow yourself to experience your feelings gracefully, while also monitoring a sense of self-control for any impulsive reactions and/or responses. From a universally revelatory perspective, we could all be confronted with the truth about the structures and figures of power and authority that we've been created and/or groomed by. Yet, even a less intimate impression could still hit closer to home in spirit and in truth. One thing's for sure is the universe is working for your own good. And this cycle between the moon and the sun is set to be the mother and father that you always wanted, needed, and/or perhaps never had. We are collectively and individually being loved with the light of truth in the highest frequency as the favored sons and daughters of the divine. Like the little birdies outgrowing the confines of the nest, we're just about nurtured enough to fly. Our spirits are just about, if not already, ready to soar. In any and every event of this transit, release any fear of heights and embrace living from a heavenly perspective. All right? So that was your full moon in Cancer message. Again, today, 12/26, already in effect, 7:33 p.m. Of course, we know 3 days before and perhaps 3 days after, the energy still lingers. So plenty of time to still govern yourself accordingly. Definitely want to emphasize the power of rest and rejuvenation and relaxation. That a transit such as this, that's highly emotionally intense, or has the propensity to be, and also constricting in some ways too. You kind of have two energies dueling, but in this case, I feel like it's more of a dual support system, so that you don't veer off into any particular end of the spectrum in an imbalanced way. Yet and still, just as controlled as as you want, as grounded, I should say, as you get to maintain yourself to be. Still allow yourself to feel, because that's what we are. That's what we do as humans. We feel, and there's no harm, no foul against that. Try not to let your emotions overtake you, or to not allow yourself to be drowned out by your emotions, or to be incited to do anything compulsive or impulsive, which is what the need for rest and taking a moment, taking a pause, being in grace proactively, with others and with yourself for sure, is most important. And again, just governing yourself with respect and responsibility regardless. And it's definitely not a fear-mongering message. I don't know. I said some pretty wild things for the shock value of it all, which could, it's not completely, far-fetched for such things to be revealed as what I said, even in an intimate way. But it may, as I said, not be so dramatic. It really may just be a confrontation of the values that we've allowed ourselves to be governed by, to be groomed by, to create and shape our existence, even in a practical sense. Really looking in the mirror and seeing who you've been groomed to be, and what you have, at this point in time, where I'm speaking to primarily adults, I assume, and now we are reclaiming our responsibility for our righteous being. And righteous, as I always like to say, not religion. It's about the integrity and truth of our organic nature, not releasing that, submitting that, surrendering it to anything outside of us, not even unto, sometimes blaming mother and father for who we turned out to be. As much as there may be revelation for that connection, is still a matter of personal responsibility. That's where that Capricorn comes in, to really help us to take responsibility and authority over what now, who now, where to now, how to now. What do we get to do with who we discover ourselves, or what we discover of ourselves? That one is on you, okay? So again, govern yourselves accordingly, certainly with grace, definitely with gratitude, because anything that you connect to as truth at this time is for your forwarding. It's not to hold you back. It's to help you to move forward. As the saying goes, which I believe is from the great Maya Angelou, is something to the effect of, you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been, type of thing. And I'll find it and I'll post it on the community tab as a reference. But certainly that much is true, that most of us think about it from a universal, a global, a national perspective. This message can range, and as most of mine do, in any regard. It can be as intimate as mother, father, sister, brother, and as expansive as the universe. Who we call God. What is mother, father, God, truly? Or what value do you ascribe that force? What value do you ascribe to that force? Maybe a new revelation about that ideal that expands your perspective of yourself within the universe. So there's that. And then nationally, of course, to our power structures, maybe revealing that what we've ascribed to as the end all be all, the authority, the superior, there may be some cause for question. I don't know. I'm not professing that, as a prophetic word, but I'm just throwing it out there that it's in alignment with the transit as it is, with anything that we have been nurtured by and anything that we submit to as a power structure. That could be people, places, or things. It's now time for us to see it clearly, to see ourselves within that structure in accordance with that order clearly, in connection to it, and then now ascribe a new meaning for our best interest, ultimately, no longer allowing someone else to define that connection for us. Okay, so that's it for the moon message. Thank you for listening. Time to move on, and now let's get into this full moon in Cancer message. Reading. Okay, so let's see what we got. Let me cut the cards a bit. And all right, don't start cards. Did I cut these already? I know I cut them so much because I shuffled them a lot off camera. I can't remember if I cut them on camera, but I don't think so. So let's cut them once more. And let's get an overall theme. There's a Queen of Swords. That's truth, objectivity, fairness, balance, honor, dignity. I never heard that for the Queen of Swords, but that makes sense. Dignity. Definitely heavy on the objectivity, because as I talked about in the full moon message, with this being a full moon in Cancer, we know the moon is at home in Cancer, right? But that can make things a little extra emotional, a little extra watery, particularly maybe even subconsciously, or I almost said psychically. Yeah, there's that too, but what was I really feeling? I guess psychically? No, it wasn't. Maybe psychologically is what I kind of meant to say, in a more practical sense, that some things could be coming up from the depths of the psyche that need to be addressed, and they may evoke or may have the potential or potency to evoke a great deal of emotional response. This is the energy that reminds us to stay grounded, stay focused on what matters, what is true, what is of value. I mean, it could all be true. I hope that it is, but really giving definition to what you're feeling, and designating your responses accordingly. Like, really, I feel like the Queen of Swords is most profound in regards to a full moon in Cancer, because there's already the tendency to be overly emotional. So this usually with the Queen of Swords, it's like evoking an emotional detachment in some ways, like really just being kind of calloused to some degree. But again, I like to say it as objective. But I feel like this leaning into this energy proactively will more or less create a balance, because there may be some things that are revealed, or that you confront, or whatever the case may be, that you just can't help but to feel some type of way. That you could be as hard and callous as you want to be. There's something emotional that will be ignited in you, or some emotional impression that's just unavoidable. This says that you get to still, like I said in the message, allow yourself to feel, be with that feeling. Don't try to suppress it. You can't suppress it anymore. That's kind of the point of this transit, is that many things have been suppressed, and now it's time to face the truth and reality of the nature of those things, and decide how you get to move forward with it. This is the forward movement, the decision, the discerning of that emotional, and it's like, that's what it's doubling down on, as a matter of fact. Emotional intelligence. Thank you. And in one term, is heightening your emotional intelligence, so that maybe there's a bit of a surge that's coming in for you to to be, disseminated, rendered. I don't even know what the right word would mean for emotions, but it's for the purposes of creating balance, like leveling out that frequency so that nothing but the truth remains. Like what is of value is what is left behind. That's the intention now. What you decide is up to you as to how you ride this wave. But emotional intelligence on high frequency is probably the best intention or motivation, I would say. All right, so let's see what else we got here, because I don't want to be too long because I already got the moon message. So if I could still, if I could still keep this within an hour, that would be great. All right, we got the devil energy here. Obsessions, possessions. What's the devil energy about? Let's get another card on that. That could be just the opposing energy wanting to, within or without, wanting to really bring into question your groundedness, the value of what you think and feel. Your stability, there it is, your stability, your security. In this case, not just from a material aspect, but it could be a challenge on that as well, just for the shits and giggles of what the opposing forces really like to play with, to make you feel unstable or imbalanced materially, would then be a reflection or an inflection on your mental and emotional balance. It just all kind of collides usually. So this could be that a confrontation or an intention to invoke some level of insecurity, or to invoke you to reaction is what it really comes down to. That's what it's giving me here, especially with the Queen of Swords. And I just talked about and objectivity and being fair and balanced and discerning with your responses and your reactions. This is the energy here that will want to provoke the opposite, for you to do something, say something that is impulsive or out of fear, out of insecurity, out of even pain, hurt, out of the fixation or obsession to a more extensive degree and balanced degree of wanting to feel validated, wanted to feel safe and secure, wanted to feel stable, again, whether it be emotionally, physically, or otherwise. This is that, it's like it's the final head to head, between who you actually and truly are and what the adverse energy would like for you to believe about yourself and about your possibilities. But you're already sitting in the Queen of Swords energy, which means that you already know the truth. Everything else is an illusion that is not in alignment with the truth that you already know. What is revealed, even if it's something that is unknown, which I'm gonna be honest, like, for the most part, there may be some shock and some awe with the receipts, because that's what the Queen of Swords represents, like the cold, hard evidence and facts of what you've always known. But given this is in Cancer, and I kind of had a Freudian slip saying psychically, there's some things that you already knew, that were revealed to you in your spirit and your soul, that were revealed to you by, just like cues and signs and signals from your surroundings, like things that, say for instance, it is something as dramatic as you were adopted. You kind of always felt like you didn't really fit in, you know what I mean? Like you always felt a little bit on the outside looking in, or felt a little indifferent to the family structure in some way, or outside, maybe you were the black sheep even to some degree. this energy is even giving me that to make you to confront you with that emotional intel that you perceived intuitively once upon a time, to now give you the definition of what that means. Not just that, oh, well, for whatever reason you were adopted. I mean, at the core of it, thank God somebody cared for you enough to keep you alive at best, you know what I mean? But then there is the adverse energy that would want to make you feel that more dense polarity of rejection. And, well, why didn't my real parents want me? Or what happened that I wasn't loved and valued enough for them, to keep me? Or, you know what I mean? Or now reflecting back on the memories of when you did feel out in the cold and having some type of resentment for that feeling, and almost dredging all of that energy with you to the present to allow it to be given, not you giving it, but allow it to be given meaning for you, to designate a value of your presence in this moment. That is more or less illusionary, like I said. That is for the purposes of projecting a denser energy onto you that would depreciate your value as you've ascribed, as you're ascribed to it, or as it is ascribed to you personally, and also to even the knowledge itself and intel itself that you're experiencing or confronting, maybe perhaps for the first time in real time, But as I said, it's almost something that you probably already knew, And here is the Emperor card. This is, again, could be the structures of power that have a stake in the claim of keeping you, I almost said depressed, but keeping information suppressed from reality or from you, keeping you or whomever is due this information, this truth, depressed in some way, shape, or form, because you not being connected to the reality of your existence. It's like I said, and this is what it is when I'm talking about psychically knowing. It's like so let's take it now to a more national perspective, like, say, not knowing the true origins, like the discrepancies of African Americans in this country, the history of African Americans, where some are known to have been descendants of Africa and slavery, and some are known to be, of West Indian or Caribbean descent. It's like, for some people, that dotted line is very distorted. We've been more or less generally as a people being fed a certain identity, ascribed the dissension of descendants of slavery and that narrative, but that may or may not even be the truth for you personally, let alone the truth holistically across the board. Now, I don't know why I'm saying that, but this is just what's coming up, that with that comes a certain psychological imprint that's made on you, especially if you don't know your history. You don't know it, you can't, which many of us don't. I can't even say us personally, because what I know of my history by the books, what's been told to me, I can trace it back a great deal to, historical origins. I can, but again, from what I've been told and what I know, what the truth of all of that is, may even for me still be yet to be revealed or, uncovered in some more crystallized way. What I know, there may be more to it. So I'm not saying that I'm absolved from this experience. What I'm saying is that, generally speaking, holistically speaking, as an African American, a Black person in this country, there's a certain assumption of origin that we all ascribe to, having been transported, a transplant from another land into this country, no matter how far removed from it, by way of some very diabolical transmissions, or transfers, if you know what I'm saying. So that imprint of that makes an imprint on the psyche that does ascribe a certain value to you, which is probably a great deal of the imbalance in culture and race that we have today, where Black people fight so hard to just express the organic nature of their being, especially on account of what is now a systematic opposition, more or less, like a system that ultimately has been built to oppose that expression in many ways, not in all ways, but in many ways, shapes, and forms. That's the contention here, at least in this country, perhaps beyond, because there's really nowhere that you could go where you don't see some aspect of race or color being a contention in the society. So, and then that takes it to a universal standpoint as to like, why is that? You know what I mean? Like, what is it that we're being fed from an even higher perspective to give us the impulse or impression that one is greater or lesser than the other, So that's why I'm saying, like, this is a revelation on many levels as to what we've been taught, what we've been nurtured by, because that's an ideal of nurturing. I'm talking about an impression in a practical way, but it's deep rooted, because if you feel like, oh, I'm a descendant of a slave, or I'm in this country because somebody brought me over as some type of second, third, fourth, fifth class citizen, that makes an impression on how you respond to your surroundings, on the worthiness that you act out of, even from a very deep subconscious level. Sometimes it's not even conscious. I know, even having the roots that I have knowingly, and coming from a very supreme lineage of Black people, quite honestly, of Native American and African people that converged in this country, and that, actually, descendants that I can connect to they were revolutionaries in freedom. They were abolitionists. One of my descendants is William Still, who is tagged the godfather of the Underground Railroad, that worked hand in hand with Harriet Tubman to, filter people into the free states, and that recorded their histories, so that their history and their identities wouldn't be lost, and recorded that time frame, which is of what we have a great deal to reflect upon, to reference that transformation, that transition of time. So me knowing that has an impression on me in a very a prideful and dignified, I guess that's what the dignity, didn't I say something about dignity with the Queen of Swords? That makes an impression of pride and dignity on my psyche knowingly. But still, the backstory of it all, the holistic narrative that I am kind of swooped into, just being a Black, not just a Black person, but a Black woman in America, has a different inflection, very different. I'm more ascribed to be the bottom of the totem pole, just by association of society, of this society particularly. So you consider having that come from psychologically, it makes an impact. You may not take the certain risks that a woman of a certain privilege or a race of a certain privilege might take. You might second guess yourself in certain ambitions that others might not. You might, deem yourself a little less worthy to certain privileges or certain expectations than some others that don't have that come from. And it's like, who's responsible for infusing this energy. I feel like the revelation that that's coming into the light is exactly the origins of that seed, so that we know exactly what it is and we can decide whether or not it gets to continue to grow in our garden. And again, that's on an intimate level all the way up to a universal level. The seed of religiosity and the perspective of what God's source, higher being is, and how we should relate and reflect to it, he, she, whatever it may be. I could go in terms of religion, particularly in this country, and how it's been used more to enslave the spirit than it has been to uplift by design, and that's all by man-made well, I can't even say that, and that's the thing. It's like we think it's man-made, but that could just, like, in terms of even slavery, that could just be the overseer of the enforcement coming from a more supreme nature, or at least intangible nature. And all of it is getting revealed, so that there is no, ignorance will no longer be any defense or excuse, that you'll have the information that you need to really decide who you get to be in the midst of all of this, what your truth is. Yeah, the value of you. Big opportunities, big energy, big gifts, like people that have been holding that hostage. And then I say, I want to know what the emperor was here. This is what he's been lording over. This connection with the truth of your truest value. With help, because this could get deep. This could even be not just universal, but mystical. Of certain powers and principalities that have been deferring to diabolical sources and forces to help not only infuse these objectives, but also to enforce them, so that people stay connected from the truth of their supreme value. It's no coincidence here that the Queen of Pentacles, in confrontation with this demonic force, is now reflected here in the Ace of Pentacles, who this is the energy trying to kind of almost coveting that supreme force that is a reflection of what's within. It's so deep that I don't even think I'm putting the right words to it. Yeah, like trying to hold on to it for self. That's what this energy is. It's like, if you know how amazing you are, then you won't be as available to be monopolized or manipulated in any other regard. Like, consider, knowing that, in fact, you're not a descendant of slaves. You're a descendant of supreme beings that ruled the earth. You know what I mean? That, okay, I'm just letting it go as it does. That ruled this at least this planet, or this universe in some way, shape, or form, that you're a direct descendant of that energy. Like, the dignity of that, you could, to know that you're a descendant of rulers and princes and kings and even angelic entities or energies, and God itself, whatever the case, whatever that may be, not the ascription of God and child as we have been taught to receive it, but really like direct descendant, you know what I mean? Like flesh of the spirit sort of thing. That would change the way you do everything. That would change how you see yourself. You wouldn't be able to be spoon-fed any old truth. You wouldn't be able to be lorded into any particular response or reaction, which this is, my nose is itching, which this is the fight for, to have your undivided attention. That's what the war is. The war at hand is to be able to monopolize your undivided attention, to be able to tell you what you're worthy of, what you have the right to, what you should and should not do, what is lawful, what is acceptable, what is societal standard, what is success, what is normal, what is not, for you to have to be told, given, for ultimately for you to give your authority of yourself over to other outside interests that have no interest in your highest good. That's the contention here. And that's what the powers that be and or were that are slowly, well, it's happening at a much more accelerated pace now, but it has been a slow decline, whether they were aware of it or not, because it was always diminishing when it was first incited, because it was out of universal alignment. To impose this type of energy, it's just that time moves so slow. Saturn, Capricorn energy, which we're in right now, it moves so slow to respond that entities were able to get away with this manipulation, this monopolization of force in a realm in which they have very little jurisdiction, if any at all, or definitely took liberty with their jurisdiction unjustifiably, that it began to be a widespread effect to the point where it just had become everyday life. Again, what nurtured us, what groomed us, what has guided us, what has reared us as children of the universe, and us knowing no better. You consider when you're born, you're told what to think. You're told what is right. You're told what is wrong. From a spirit and truthful perspective, your parents are impressing upon you what they've been told, what they have come to learn and know is right and wrong, and so on and so forth. Well, it's time. I'm surprised the world or the it may have shown up underneath, but I don't feel like looking under the deck today. It'll elongate the message a little more than I wanted to. But the world or the Wheel of Fortune is the energies that I'm picking up now, where it's time to close that cycle of, I don't even know what to call it. What is that cycle of, I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me. It's not so eloquent, but enslavement, is definitely a term that comes to mind. To transition into a life of liberty, ultimately, where literally we all have responsibility and accountability for our spiritual force, which comes with a great deal of what do you call it? I don't want to say accountability again, but it comes with a great deal of expectation, from the divine and from an earthly perspective, that how you expel that energy, just as much as you can't blame shift it off until, well, the devil made me do it, or this is God's will, or what. It's like you're not going to have that crutch anymore exclusively, I will say, to say that one entity out and reflection to existing outside of yourself is what has control and responsibility for yourself. It's like really having to take accountability for the life that you're creating, good, bad, or indifferent. So that means when you're moving in a righteous regard, integrity, truth, light, love, you have the expectation, rightfully so, to harvest that energy. It makes sense. The same is true in the adverse, that if you're moving against those vibrations, then you have to take accountability for what you create in that light as well. It's no one else's responsibility but self at this point, And of course, or I don't even know, that could be a revelation too, but I feel still strongly that there is a spiritual support for, an intangible force that is in alignment with your intentions and your motivations. Yet and still, it's like I said in the message, you're out the nest now. Mother bird may not be coming back to bring worms. You know what I mean? Father may not necessarily be the one to bogart all of the predators. You're embodied now with the force, like you've been nurtured from both respects to embody that wisdom for yourself. Now you know how to protect yourself. When your senses are telling you, there's that emotional intelligence again, that psychological prowess. From past experiences when a predator is at large, or you're in proximity. What looks righteous and what doesn't, what feels righteous to the spirit and to the soul and what doesn't. It's like I can't necessarily say for sure with no evidence at present that spirit still won't be leading and guiding, but for sure it's like that. What can I say? It's like the torch has kind of been passed down to you to a certain degree. Like you are the embodiment. You know what I mean? It's like it's not deferred to any outside resource as much anymore, or won't be. I don't know, if not yet, but it's only because you're equipped to handle it. Just as much as mother bird knows when it's time for her baby birds to fly and leave the nest. The universe, God, whatever you subscribe to, submit to, knows when you're ready, when it's time for you to begin to take on more self-responsibility. And that could be, wow, okay, yeah, I'm gonna take these. Here's that balance of universal. So that's the presence right there in spirit and in truth. With the temperance card, the balance, the harmony, the peace with your spiritual nature, your material self, your carnal nature, which is present here with the King of Pentacles. But I love that it's the King, because that is the proactive nature, the proven, the pronunciation of this presence of high value that we started with the Queen of Pentacles, as if, like almost like affirming that energy, like where it may have been in question before, and more receptive to challenge. It's like solidified here by way of what? Spirit and truth, because of how you've conducted yourself and what you've allowed yourself to be in co-creativity with from an intangible source, now has rendered you like solid in the physical. This is like angelic presence celebrating what? Your victory and success in this evolution. That's what I'm picking up just from these 4 cards. Like kind of what I was just saying, where, like I said, this is the value of you, the kingpin, the man of high value, energy of high value, knowing your worth, it not being is not being vulnerable to any outside projection, certainly not of any diabolical or even carnal nature, or exclusively carnal nature. It's like exactly your worth because it comes from a spiritually sound space. It's been solidified. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, we still live in a 3D world. So yes, there'll be wealth, there'll be prosperity, productivity, things that can be touched and measured and all of that great stuff, certainly, that would give cause for celebration in the physical form, in the carnal sense. But it first came from this alchemy of the spirit. That's what makes it long lasting and stable and grounded and unable and impenetrable from these forces as so before, because it's been tried and tested and is now true, literally true, particularly in the cycle that we are embarking upon right now. Literally coming to the realization of who you actually are, of a spirit origin and of a material and physical rendering. What does that mean? And how celebrated that force and that form truly is, unbeknownst to the reflection of your surroundings, intimately or otherwise, that you are indeed celebrated, and that your presence, let alone your persistence, or not just your presence, but how your evolution in this regard is something to be highly valued and even recognizable and celebrated in a sense, because it's not normal. It is rare, as the Six of Wands kind of is. This is someone that stands above the fray, beyond the chaos and confusion and calamity and what do you call it, competition that is projected in society and in the world on a global standpoint, and even in a local perspective. This is someone that somehow is able to maintain a perspective of peace and a reaction and response of peace as well, because that's what this gives me. When you see the wreath is crowned on this person's wand, and the head is crowned with the wand, it's like you've been able to literally temper your responses to your environment, good, bad, or indifferent, in a way that makes sense, and that is forwarding, that is prospering, that is productive, not just fall into the pitfalls of obsession, possession, and fear, and again, all those other dense energies that are just designed to bring you down to your lowest form, to make you never see the value of yourself, let alone to perceive of any high value at all, So I don't think there's much more I need to say. Yeah, and here is the co-creativity between yourself and spirit. This is a new contract, and it could be, of course, in a physical sense, for sure, like an evolved, a renewed or regenerated commitment between yourself and your world. I would say on a grand scale, could be between yourself and your expectation of partnership, because you know more, you know better of yourself, you have a higher expectation and a higher regard for what you're worthy to receive. But also within your own being, between you and self. These two cups right here with temperance, you now having a different agreement, like a different self-awareness within your own, within you, your own being, to know, like, this is who I am, and settling with an acceptance. That's what it is. Like, this is two people that are on the same page. Maybe this is the duality of you, what has been true and what has been projected, now on one accord, in a new contract, an agreement that is balanced and equal and fair on both sides, that there is not one less than the other. You know just as much of who you are as you do of what the illusion or presumption was projected of you to be. And now you can make, from this point, wow, and I hit that by mistake, but from this point of view of being in despair, out in the cold, without poverty mindset, it's like hopefully this, I'm not even going there, because I don't feel like this energy should have placement in the lower vibration in this message or in regards to what others may be experiencing on the other side of that spectrum. This is you coming out of the cold, from even your own spirit, feeling like you don't belong, back to that energy of like feeling like a foster child, you know what I mean? Like, and let's elevate that perspective, maybe not personally or intimately, but a foster child even of the divine, that you're somehow you're some stray that was taken in, some wretch undone, is a popular term in religion, that was just taken in, and you should be lucky that the divine spared your life and saw enough of you to allow you to breathe in this universe. Like that mentality, that's the religious aspect of what I've been talking about here, feeling detached from your divinity, from your supreme self, your true nature. That's not true at all if you don't believe so. I don't believe so. That I am the favorite of the divine. I am the divine's most precious child. That's this energy here, the Ace of Pentacles. I am the gift of the divine. I know I'm not the only one. I have many siblings, many supreme siblings that I love very dearly. But certainly, just as any good mother and father would, each child is raised and rendered uniquely and specifically to their needs and their characteristics and their own personalities. That's the same as it is with the divine unto us, being the children of such, the descendants of such. We get to be ourselves unapologetically and be nurtured by that relationship specifically, not in any cookie cutter way, definitely as no projection of societal standards, but that integrity piece, that righteousness that I'm always speaking about is very it's very unique. No one parent child relationship looks alike. So there couldn't be a generalization of what the divine requires or needs or decides or determines per se, unless you're out of alignment. And then there's a certain, you know what I mean? There's a certain other, and even that's unique too, depending on the child, because out of alignment in one person's eyes may be just the path to alignment that that particular being needs to find their way back to integrity, you know, to have to go to the depths, the dark night of the soul, of which we all kind of do at some point in time, that may not look so savory or favorable to others, but it's the thing that's leading you right back to the light, you know. So all in all, it's still calling us to really be focused on our own commitments, our own contracts, what we are signing our name and our spirit to the dotted line to, and being clear that it's in integrity and in the righteousness of our own path. You know, so me particularly in a potential of relationships, or the proposition of relationship or agreement, not necessarily having any judgment toward anyone or anything that may be propositioning, but just knowing, being able to discern objectively what of it to receive for my own forward movement. You know, so you could be you could do you, but is it in alignment with how I'm being me, how I'm doing me, and what my path is requiring of me, you know, where it's guiding me? That's really the biggest determination here. Nothing that will lead you back into this place and space of despair and feeling less than and not enough and feeling like you don't have enough, and that there is not an unlimited resource available to you in spirit and in truth. Limitations are what we are being alleviated from. That's what it was. I was saying we're closing the cycle of limitations. That's the word. Not necessarily enslavement, but that's a part of it. That's just an inflection of limitation. But we're closing the old world and an old karmic cycle of limitations and beginning a new, fresh world and cycle of liberty. Justice for all. However you decide or discern you are deserving of that is really up to you. And here is that again. Oh my gosh. And I love this for it. This is the choice right here, because sometimes with the Six of Cups, it can be the regeneration of old cycles. It really is a familiar card, where it's some familiar acquaintance or reconciliation, regeneration that's happening here of connection, right? But the engagement here, the difference here is how you get to reassociate yourself in that familiarity. Is it something of value that gets to be regenerated? Meaning not everything from the past is going to be thrown away. Of course, even in the most fresh revelations, back to me saying you were adopted. That doesn't necessarily mean you throw the whole family away, you know, because they didn't want to hurt your feelings or reveal that to you. Or maybe there was something more diabolical or dark about holding the secret. Who knows? But either way, there's still a reverence for the fact that your existence, your preservation is on account of even the path that you have come from that may or may not have been favorable, or savory to some degree. It's like you don't have to throw the whole existence of it away. You get to again discern and decide. I always miss this word when I want to say it again. What value to designate the value of that experience, whether it gets to continue in the way that it has, whether it gets to have a completely new makeover, be regenerated completely, or whether it gets to be released. Because let's not forget, this is a full moon cycle. Everything that has a past nostalgic or even familiar essence doesn't necessarily mean it has a divine presence, particularly right now. You may be privy to certain revelations for the purposes of releasing them for what they were with grace and gratitude, but certainly as a detachment for what is now and what is future, particularly. Because this is like the inflection of that. Like, in order for you to kind of have this present experience, which has even a futuristic fortitude, right? With the Two of Cups, this is the inflection or the indication of a long-lasting partnership, or at least a devout connection and commitment between two energies, between you, yourself, and you, or between you and spirit, that cannot be the inflection of any toxic cycles. It can't be familiar in that way. It can't be reminiscent of trauma now regenerated, or it takes on the same form of limitations of what you're invited to leave behind. So of course everyone has the choice, but really, if given the opportunity, which one would you really choose? What would you rather have? Something that reflects to you the highest value and possibility and potential of your supreme self, or people, places, things, connections, experiences, mind frames, thoughts, patterns, habits that reflect to you the very worst of you and the unworthiness of you, the least of you. So that's the true confrontation here. Because this is definitely a reflection of family, friends. Like I said, it could be past life cycle. It could be past season cycle. It could be old relationships. We're still in Mercury retrograde till the 1st and a few weeks after. Definitely on trend for that vibration. And our relationships definitely have a great impact and impression on the reflection of truth that we ascribe to, right, or subscribe to. I don't even know if I'm using that word right, but it keeps coming up. That we subscribe to, whether it be family, friends, intimate, professional, or otherwise. like we reflect a reality to one another. So now you're coming into a very crystal clear understanding of what that reflection has been comprised of, what it gets to be now, and then with the confrontation in that truth as to how it gets to be. Are you going to keep pulling from that past trauma, or or perhaps there may even be an invitation for a regenerated expression of commitment that lost its favor or savor in one regard, and now two people or something is ready to be reconnected with, that is just as highly regenerated as you. That's been infused and ascended in some way to meet you where you are now. So there's that on the higher frequency, of course, but given the nature of the energy that we're in, retrograde, full moon in Cancer with Capricorn, with the sun in Capricorn, is really the I don't want to say confrontation again, because it's not so, it may feel harsh like that, but it's just really reclaiming your true identity. And you're the reflective force of everything outside of you from that reality, right? You are the projection. Otherwise, something else becomes a projection. So with that Capricorn power force, you're reclaiming the authority over what you get to be in your reality and what you also get to see and experience. You have the authority to do that. You are authorized by the divine and given a stamp of approval, affirmation from a very it's like proud papa, elated mama perspective. That you're given this responsibility and this authority because you're a favorite child that's proving yourself worthy and ready to receive it. Period. And it's just like with a good mom and dad, where you can more or less always go home and be, like there can always be that counsel there in spirit and in truth. There, I believe that there will always be that, but there's a certain pride and dignity that definitely is empowering to know that you got this. You're stable, you're secure, you're responsible, and the divine trusts you with your life. So you are empowered to do the same. All right. So that's all. Happy full moon in Cancer. Be easy on yourself. Be easy on others. Be graceful. Be honest, though. Be honest with yourself and honest with others in that regard. Don't, with the control of the tongue, temperance with your words and with your responses. But you can be honest about what you're feeling and what you feel the proper response may be, even if it's unto you. And don't feel pressured, particularly to bring anything to a closure, specifically before this new year, to try to, seal anything up that may be pending or open-ended. Just be with the flow, be with the force as it's moving through you and guiding you. You'll know what to do, particularly if you're staying grounded by truth, and keeping in mind that things are happening for you. You'll know exactly what to do most proactively and responsibly, so that your best interest is protected. All right. So again, best wishes to you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I don't know why I'm saying it like it's the new year. I don't know why I feel that way in this moment. Like I was about to say, like, have a happy new year. Like we still got some time. So enjoy yourself for as much as you can. Go out with a bang for 2023 if you can. And I'll talk to you on the next one. And for now, as always, I leave you with peace.